Hi, I'm Chris Stirewalt, and this is Power Play. Hello from Philadelphia Internet. We hope it is cool. We hope that your routers are not burning wherever you are. Here in Philadelphia, it remains hot, but the Democratic Party is cooling down after a fractious start to the week, and they were pleased, it seemed, with former President Bill Clinton's remarks last night, gearing up today, for those of you watching this now on Facebook Live, today for remarks from President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, I think, Vice Presidential nominee Tim Kaine. So we're at a pivot point in the convention. As we get ready, we've made the case about why Hillary Clinton is okay, and you should kind of like her maybe a little bit if you want to. And then now we're going to hear about why she needs to be elected. Who could we ask about that? Who would know? Is there anyone who would know? Well, we're at the Democratic National Convention. We should ask a Democrat. Meet Jeremy Byrd. He's a founder at 270 Strategies, which is a Democratic consulting firm. He's an advisor to Hillary Clinton's campaign, and he was national field director for Barack Obama, which you did some sweating doing that, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
You hustled around a good bit.
Yes.
All right, so welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Have you had anything good to eat while you've been in Philadelphia?
I had a cheesesteak at Jim's.
Jim's is good.
It's pretty good.
Johnny's roast pork, though.
Better?
Number one.
All right.
Got to have the broccoli rabe.
All right.
All right, so here's the thing. Bill Clinton made a poignant, almost wistful speech about his wife. There were, one might see even tinges of sadness, maybe, some regret, perhaps, on his part, but really making the case about why he loves her, why you should love her too.
Yep.
We've heard the argument, you know, she's a woman, she's history-making, she's all this stuff. What is the president's job? What is the job of Joe Biden and Tim Kaine as they take the podium? What's their job today?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you mentioned, this is the turning point of the convention. Big night. Obviously, Tim Kaine will have his moment in the spotlight. Not a lot of folks have seen him, right? So This is an important point for him to make the case for her. Her strength and leadership, I think, will be the key tonight. Talking about protecting the country and why she's completely qualified to be President of the United States. I think you'll see that from the President. Why did he select her as Secretary of State? Her record as Secretary of State. And a little bit about some of the accomplishments that he would like to see her take forward from his 7-8 years in the White House.
We've heard a lot about Donald Trump at this convention. Not as much as we heard in the early part of the Republican convention about Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
We have heard a lot about Donald Trump. Does the president need to make the case about why Donald Trump is dangerous or why this is a bad idea?
I think he needs to make it a choice, right? I mean, all elections are choices, and I think both on the Republican side and the Democratic side, you need to be able to do two things: talk about why your candidate is qualified to be commander-in-chief, and talk about why they're more qualified than the other candidate. So I think you'll see the president make the contrast between the two of them. Absolutely.
So we know that Donald Trump's base voters are motivated. The polls tell us that his core constituency, that while many Republicans remain uncertain about him, his core group of voters will march for him in a serious way. Hillary Clinton there seems to be an enthusiasm gap. It seems to be that among Democrats there's been reticence. The Republicans are seeking to overcome the reticence in their party by saying that Hillary Clinton is unfit for command, not okay, a dangerous choice. Doesn't some case need to be made against Donald Trump on the Democratic side to get Democrats motivated?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's almost nobody more motivating to the Democratic base than Donald Trump and his rhetoric. Whether you're talking about Hispanic voters and his policies and rhetoric around building the wall, around his anti-immigration stance. When you talk about, there's been some polls out where he doesn't get 0% or 1% of African Americans. He gets 0 in the polls, which is a pretty historic number. So I think you see a lot of folks on the Democratic coalition side, young people, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanics, and hardcore Democrats who are very motivated by Donald Trump and also motivated by history that we saw last night with the first woman of any major party getting the nomination. So this, I think, has been a very, as you mentioned, a very good process, sort of as the Sanders folks and the Clinton folks have come together. Coming out of this convention, I think you'll see a lot of unity, a lot more enthusiasm, and a lot of contrast to Donald Trump.
All right, so another part of President Obama's job tonight is to define what his legacy is to the Democratic Party and to the country. What did this mean? What was this all about? And of course, that is how you create the starkness of feeling for Democrats. You say, we did all this, this is who I am, this is what Obamaism is, and if you elect Donald Trump, it'll be blown away. It'll be destroyed. When he talks about that, what's he going to tell people that Obamaism is? What does it mean to have had him as president?
Yeah, I think he'll talk a lot about his accomplishments. He's always been a little reticent to beat his chest. I mean, he'll get up there and I think humbly talk about what he did on healthcare, what he's done with the economy. He'll talk about his foreign policy, and he will talk, I think, to a lot of us. It's really important that that legacy continues, that the policies that he fought for could easily be dismantled with a Republican presidency and potentially a Republican Congress. So I think talking about how Clinton can continue and further those, but also has her own agenda, will be important for him to make that case.
All right, so the name of your firm,
270.
270.
Yeah.
Now, you know why it's 270, because you need 270 electoral votes to become president. Now, we're looking at potentially a different kind of electoral map this time than we have in the past. So the traditional game, as you know, being the internet and having looked it up, is that the Republicans win the Deep South. There's an L shape. The Republicans win the Intermountain West, maybe Nevada and Colorado if they're lucky, down to Texas, across the Solid South. Then they need Florida and Ohio, and they got to hold on in Virginia too. So this is basically the map structure that we've seen since 1992. Makes my job really easy because I just have to follow like 6 counties in 5 states, and I'm all good. It's fine. If you can tell me how suburban white women around Columbus are going to vote, I got the election every time. This time, it could be different.
It could be different.
And when we're in Pennsylvania, and we talk about a northern tier strategy for Donald Trump, starts with Pennsylvania that could offset, that's a lot of electoral votes. No Republicans won it since '88, but would offset a lot of electoral votes. We talk about Pennsylvania, we talk about states like New Hampshire, Maine, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin maybe, where we've seen Trump do very well with white working class voters. How does Hillary Clinton, how did Democrats address that?
I think there's a couple of things. I mean, one is we saw him do well in the Republican primary. The question is, how does that transfer over to the general election? And I think Pennsylvania is a state where you have 1 million more Democrats than you have Republicans. He has a very, very long hill to climb in Pennsylvania. But, it's a state that the Clinton campaign will take seriously, a state that's been, something that Democrats have taken seriously for decades now. The question is, how does that flip on the other side, which is he's going to have a harder time in Florida, which he has to win. Florida is to Republicans what Pennsylvania is to Democrats. You just can't get there without it, right? Democrats aren't going to get there without Pennsylvania. Republicans aren't going to get there without Florida. The problem that he has in a place like Florida or even North Carolina, which you wouldn't think would be on the map because Romney won last time, you would think, oh, it can't be better.
No.
He actually is doing worse amongst African-American voters. It's a more diverse population there than it was 4 years ago. And you have the same thing in Florida, where I think he has a really tough time with Hispanic voters, even Cuban voters. So it's a very interesting map, same states, but maybe a little bit more dynamic than last time.
And you guys would be looking, not just North Carolina, but also Virginia. You figure you can hold Virginia. Then you're going to look out west. You'll say Colorado, Nevada, and maybe, if you're having a very good year, Arizona.
That's right. And, you look at the map as it was in 2004, for example. Virginia wasn't on the map for Democrats.
Right.
I mean, we didn't have hardly any staff there.
1964 as the last time that a Republican lost Virginia until 2008. Then they lost it twice.
Right. And so that kind of changes the map. Then you go out west. He has to do significantly better with Hispanic voters in Nevada and Colorado to have any chance. If we're able to lock that down and Virginia, then you're talking about a map where you could win without winning Florida or Ohio.
Right.
Which is just a tough map for Republicans right now.
Now, when we talk about white working class voters, we know the Democratic coalition has massive advantages. We know that in the long-term thinking, that as the share of Hispanic votes goes up generationally, Democrats are banking that this basically puts Republicans in an impossible situation. But if, and this is what Republicans have to bet on now, you have a huge surge. So white vote will be like 70 to 72%, depending on how white the vote is. But it'll be in that bandwidth. What Republicans have to bet on is that there's enough animus towards the Democratic Party, especially on now, weirdly, trade, but that there's enough animus towards the Democratic Party among the white working class. Is there a tailored message? What do Democrats need to say to these voters in places like Minnesota, where they elected Jesse Ventura governor one time? What do they say to these voters? What's the tailor-made message for them?
Yeah, I think Kane is a really interesting choice when we talk about that. I mean, I think it's appealing to the whole Democratic coalition, but you have somebody who grew up in a working-class family in Kansas City. Dad worked in was an iron worker. I think you'll hear what he talks about tonight will be very core to kind of the message that We can't go to Ohio and just play in Cleveland, just play in Columbus, just play in Cincinnati, and try to turn out, the coalition. We have to be in Appalachia. We're not going to win Chillicothe County probably, but we can't lose 75-25. We need to cut the margins there. And so we've got to talk about the core economic issues. We've got to talk to folks who have been struggling economically. We've got to make that case that she'll fight for them, that she'll fight for working families, and that Tim Kaine is a great example of that in his bio. I'm going to see a lot of that tonight. Joe Biden as well. Joe Biden talks about very resonant with white working class voters in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Minnesota.
If you live in Ironton or Scranton, Jeremy Bird wants to talk to you. We're glad you made time to talk
Thanks for having me.
Have a great convention. Appreciate you. And you, Internet, we always appreciate you, weird and wonderful as you are. We hope you come back for more Power Play real soon.